Generally, we hear immigration attorneys talking about marriage and how it affects a person's immigration status. But today we're going to talk about divorce and how it may affect a person's immigration status. Hello, my name is Rocio Sanchez Flores and I'm an immigration attorney in SFR Law Corporation. To explain how divorce may affect a person's immigration status, I'll focus in three different scenarios today. However, remember that each case is unique and the rules may vary depending the state in which you are located. However, the immigration consequences are likely to be the same because immigration is federal jurisdiction. So, our three examples today are: first, an immigrant who, after separating from his or her spouse, finds new love, remarries, and after an interaction with USCIS, ends up in deportation proceedings. Second, a couple who got married in their home country, moved to America, and after a couple years they don't want to be together anymore, but they don't have time to go back to their home country and file for divorce. They live in separate apartments now, but not being able to fully separate makes them feel stuck. Finally, our third example is a couple in which at least one of them is an immigrant. They don't feel love for each other anymore, but they feel gratitude for the time spent together. However, they want their property and the time spent with their children separated. They want their freedom, but they do not want to affect the immigration status of either or both of them. What can they do? So let's start with case number one. Our immigrant who, after separating, remarries, and after an interaction with USCIS, ends up in deportation proceedings. Let's call this person Mary, so our story is easier to follow. How or why did Mary get in touch with USCIS for starters? Well, what often happens is that the person separating is a green card holder. Mary found love with a person that understood her because they had similar experiences. Mary's new spouse is also an immigrant, and Mary wants to help her new spouse to obtain permanent residency in the United States. So, Mary sent a petition to USCIS to help her new spouse to obtain a green card, and that's how she got in touch with USCIS after her separation and her new marriage. So, why is Mary in deportation proceedings just for trying to rebuild her life? Well, after Mary separated from her previous spouse, she asked for divorce. And when she left the house, she took the TV with her. Let's be sincere. Divorce comes with many complicated feelings. So maybe after this rocky closure, Mary didn't care about filing the divorce papers. Or maybe Mary filed the divorce papers but never follow up to make sure to obtain a divorce sentence. Or let's say that Mary actually obtained a divorce sentence, but the date on her divorce sentence is after the date on her new marriage certificate. In either of these three scenarios, Mary was married to two people at the same time. This is bigamy, a crime in most states. And remember that Mary took the TV when she left the house? Well, the previous spouse reported her, and Mary was convicted of minor theft. Even though these are misdemeanors, and we may see them like normal pull and push after a separation, for an immigrant, these two small mistakes may end up in deportation proceedings. Additionally, Mary won't be able to help her new spouse to obtain a green card because they were never really married, since the previous marriage never ended. Another common situation is when a person wants to naturalize. Let's say Mary got in touch with USCIS because she filed for citizenship. So when USCIS reviewed her file, they discovered these two small misdemeanors. Then USCIS can send Mary's file to ICE and she can end up in deportation proceedings. In any case, if USCIS doesn't send Mary's file to ICE, she may still not be able to naturalize. So, moral of the story, make sure you divorce after a separation. I know divorce is a complicated proceeding because it comes with a lot of complicated feelings, but make sure to obtain a divorce sentence before you marry again. This takes me to our second scenario, where a couple wants to divorce but they believe they can't. This couple got married in their home country and then moved to America. After a couple years, they don't want to be together anymore, but they don't have time to go back to their home country to file for divorce. This couple lives in separate apartments already, and to cover more ground, our imaginary couple has children and they live in California. If you live in the state of California, you can contact us to help you with either your immigration status or your divorce case. If you live outside the state of California, you still can contact us to help you with your immigration status. Immigration falls under federal jurisdiction, so we can help immigrants all over the country. But for your divorce case, you're gonna have to follow your state rules. So I'm going to use the laws of California because our imaginary couple lives in California. Well, good news! You can divorce in California even if you married in a different state or a different country. You're gonna have to fulfill certain requirements, but the most important one is that you have to have lived for at least 6 months in the state of California before filing for divorce. It can be either you or your spouse. It is not necessary that both live in California, but at least one of them, and after 6 months, you can file for divorce in California. And remember we said that our imaginary couple had children? When you file for divorce in California, the judge can make findings in custody and visitation. Something else that is important to notice, and why a divorce judgment is important after separation, is that California is a community property state. That means that when you move to California, if you do not have a pre or a post-marital agreement, the couple's property becomes quasi-community property. That is just a fancy term to say that the property and debts are divided 50-50 between the couple. So let's say that after separation, one of the spouses became very successful and the other spouse got into a huge debt. If this couple didn't have a pre or a post-marital agreement, the collectors can go against the property of the successful spouse because they are not legally separated. That is, they don't have a divorce judgment. This includes any savings accounts, any retirement accounts, any cars, any houses, or any property. But let's say yours is a friendly divorce, there are no children involved, and you're able to agree about what property belongs to whom. That can be a very easy and quick divorce. So, moral of the story, get a divorce judgment even if you were married in a different country. The sooner the better to avoid property entanglement. To finish in a friendly note, our final scenario is when a couple wants to separate but they do not want to affect the immigration status of the other spouse. When could this happen? Let's say our couple is formed by two immigrants. One of them has a U visa pending before USCIS as the victim of a crime, and the other spouse is going to get a visa as the spouse of the victim. Another example is when the person has a conditional green card. This is a 2 years green card because they are married to a US citizen, but after living together, their interactions have changed and they discover they don't love each other anymore. However, the time to take off the condition on the green card hasn't arrived yet. In these two cases, the solution may be a legal separation instead of a divorce. A legal separation has the same effects than a divorce regarding property and children, but you're still married for legal purposes. How it works is that the couple may be able to detangle their finances, separate their property, and agree about the custody of their children, but they will be still married for immigration purposes. After the spouse has obtained the desired immigration status, you can convert the legal separation into a divorce sentence very easily. Take into account that immigration authorities will look very closely into any issues regarding marriage fraud. But that's why we are here, to make sure that you're able to explain your story to the immigration authorities so your immigration status is not affected. Life changes, and as an immigrant, you should be free to live your life without the fear of deportation. So I hope you find this information useful. I invite you to follow us in our social media so you get information about immigration that is useful for you. And remember, you can contact us if you need help with any immigration case. SFR Law Corporation, Immigration Security, Freedom and Relief.